Your Honor, my client's husband is a low-level mechanic with a history of disappearing. He is unfit for custody. Her lawyer's voice was a velvet sledgehammer, each word ricocheting off the courtroom walls. My wife, Morgan, stared straight ahead. She didn't have to look at me. In her mind, this was already over. Then her lawyer went for the kill. He didn't even attend my client's mother's funeral. A murmur rippled through the gallery. The judge raised an eyebrow. Morgan knew exactly why I wasn't there. She also knew I couldn't prove it. At least, not yet. Suddenly, the bailiff stepped forward. Your Honor, a representative from the State Department is here. He says it's urgent. The room fell silent. A man in a crisp gray suit walked in, carrying a red-sealed folder. He moved with an unnerving stillness, his face a mask of official business. I leaned back in my chair, my heart rate finally slowing to a steady beat. The show was about to begin. 12 years ago, it all started in a garage. I was swapping brake pads on her dad's Buick when she walked in, asking for directions she didn't need. She smelled like a summer wedding and had a credit score I could only dream of. I thought a woman like her had no business being around grease and fluorescent lights, but she laughed at my dumb jokes and brought me coffee the next morning. I mistook her curiosity for love. I built a life for her, shift by shift, until my knuckles were raw. We bought a blue house she called Hopeful. When our son was born, I swore these hands would always be steady enough to hold him. For a while, we were a picture-perfect family. Then, the silence started. Her phone was always face down. We'd fight about nothing, the smell of grease on my clothes, a misplaced receipt. One night, I found a second wine glass, still wet, in the dish rack. I just washed it and put it away. A week later, a hotel receipt fell out of her purse. Wrong name on the room, but the right last 4 digits on her credit card. People think betrayal breaks you. It doesn't. It makes everything painfully, brutally clear. I started observing, not stalking, just paying attention to patterns, routes, and a recurring name. Eric. He's just a colleague, she'd say. I shook his hand once at a company cookout. He looked at me like I was something you scrape off your shoe. That night, I stopped drinking. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Here's the part Morgan never knew. Before I was a mechanic, I was an unsent postcard from a different America, a world of whispers, favors, and covert operations. My file from that life doesn't exist anymore. But I called in one last favor. His name is Dev Patel. I pulled him out of a tight spot in Kabul back in 2013. Now he's a ghost in the machine of cyber intelligence, the kind of guy who can find a shadow by searching for the absence of light. We met at a quiet diner. I slid him a photo of Eric, with his shiny watch and smug grin. 2 weeks later, Dev's message came through. You were right. Eric's financials were a disaster. Offshore accounts, shady invoices routed through a shell company. And here it's the gut punch. That shell company was registered under my wife's maiden name. The money trail led straight to a local political campaign, a ticking time bomb of scandal. I didn't want a wildfire. I wanted surgical precision. The day of her mother's funeral, I wasn't grieving. My flight records might say Warsaw, but I was in a warehouse in Delaware with Dev and 2 men who didn't use names. We were watching Eric's entire financial life unfold on a screen. I missed the funeral because I was making sure our son wouldn't grow up watching his mother get indicted on the 6 o'clock news. Morgan, cold and calculating, used my absence as a weapon in court. I let her. I showed up looking like a man who'd been sleeping in his car, letting her lawyer paint me as an unstable, unreliable father. Then, the man in the gray suit entered the courtroom. He handed the judge the red-sealed file and whispered something in his ear. The judge's eyes flicked to Morgan, his expression hardening. Mrs. Carver, he said, his voice now laced with caution. It appears you are a managing partner in an ongoing federal investigation into embezzlement and campaign finance violations. The gallery gasped. Morgan's lawyer froze. That's impossible, she stammered, her voice suddenly thin. The man in gray stepped forward. We'll need to speak with Mrs. Carver privately, Your Honor. He paused. And with Mr. Whitaker, known professionally as Eric, regarding falsified disclosures. From the back row, Eric stood up as if pulled by strings. I hadn't even noticed he was there. That was Dev's little gift to me. The judge cleared his throat. Given these developments, the court finds no reason to doubt Mr. Carver's suitability for primary custody. Temporary order is granted. The room erupted in a storm of shuffling papers and panicked whispers. Morgan finally looked at me, her calculating gaze melting into pure fear. "What did you do?" she mouthed. I didn't answer. "Here's the part you all argue about in the comments. I didn't expose my wife for revenge. I handed the truth to people who could verify it, and I timed it perfectly to shield our son from the fallout. I could have destroyed her, the press, the perp walk, public ruin. But I didn't. Dev's file stopped just short of that. It was an act of mercy she'll never understand and I'll never get credit for." As a marshal led Morgan and Eric toward a side door, her lawyer tried one last time. "Your Honor, he didn't even go to his mother-in-law's funeral." For the first time all day, I spoke. I didn't go because I was with federal investigators, reviewing evidence to keep my son out of a scandal. I let the next words hang in the air. "Your client knew that." The judge just nodded, his eyes weary. "We're adjourned." Outside, Dev was leaning against a pillar. "You still a mechanic?" he asked. "Every day," I said. "Things break. I fix them." He smirked. "Some things fix themselves by falling apart." Back at the blue house, my son ran into my arms. "Did the judge say I can stay here?" he asked. "For now," I told him. "And for a while. Because I don't lie to my kid. There's no neat ending here. Morgan will hire PR firms, Eric will cut a deal. And tomorrow, I'll clock in at the shop and get my hands greasy. Here's the controversial truth. I could have wrecked her. I chose not to. Not for her, but because my son deserves a mother who can still show up to his school plays. What did I do? Exactly what she did 12 years ago. I used what I had. The difference is, I used it to tell the truth. And the truth, when it finally walks into a courtroom, doesn't knock. It enters, it stands, and it changes everything. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more.